Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video, something a little bit different. So today's video, we'll be taking a look and discussing a new player on the market for used PC components, here in the UK anyway, and that is gpused.co.uk. Now, a number of you out there in viewerland have actually commented and messaged me and saying, what do you think of these people? What's the deal? Is it worth getting a graphics card from these people? And potentially other things. Now, I should make this very clear. As it stands, as of the day of recording, there is no affiliation between myself and gpused.co.uk. It's simply one of those things that I've been investigating. Now, I do have somewhat of a kind of a relationship with Max in terms of we've emailed, discussed things, and he's asked for feedback. So yes, we are colleagues, friends, whatever you want to call it, but there is no financial commitment on either side of us. I'm just saying things as they are. Obviously, if that changes at some point in the future, Max wants to do some kind of sponsored spot, then potentially we might look at that. But as it stands at the moment, all the things I'm saying are completely my own words, and also what has been printed out here. But other than that, there is no affiliation. So I just wanted to make that clear before we go on. So what I thought I'd do is do a little bit of a light investigation work and see what GPU used is all about, whether or not they are going to be the friend or foe of the enthusiast gaming market, and whether or not it's going to be a suitable place to try and go get graphics cards, hard drives, all those kinds of things which we generally tend to buy on the used market. Now, there are going to be some kind of prefaces here. Obviously, when it comes to things like pricing differs drastically depending where you're getting it from. So GPU used are kind of somewhere in between what you'd consider the kind of CEX level of pricing and the sort of eBay level of pricing. So they're going to be somewhere nestled slightly in between. One of the things they do try to do is to beat the CEX prices by a decent margin. And from what I've deducted from actually speaking to Max, who is the owner of the company, I've actually sent him a list of questions to try and work out some of this stuff so I can go through it with you guys so you can feel a little bit more confident if you are planning to use them. You are potentially going to be looking at saving anywhere between 10 to 20% off of CEX prices. Now again, because CEX is a massive company and they've got a lot of resources available, you may find every now and then one of the prices may not be quite as good as you'd expect. But because this is a small and reactive company, you can get in contact with them very easily. There is an email address and also a mobile phone number, so you can phone them and possibly even haggle with them, although I probably wouldn't recommend that, but certainly if you are trying to get the best deal, haggling is always an option. So let's get back on track to find out what gpused.co.uk is all about. So I have actually sent off a kind of questionnaire and also asked in our Discord community if there's any questions, anybody has anything specific that we can try and find out. So I've got a whole list of questions here, so we're going to go through some of those. There will be timestamps in the video, so if you want to go through to certain aspects, then please feel free to click on those. Also, something else we did in order to kind of just test this whole process, I actually ordered a graphics card, not this one, but this is the box. The graphics card actually is currently sitting in the PC behind me, as you can see. So that is the EVGA GTX 1070 SC, which I picked up for just a shade over £100, which is actually a little bit cheaper than it was on CEX. Although with CEX, unfortunately, you don't always get to know the model numbers, so they kind of have just a generic description of the graphics card, such as NVIDIA GTX 1070, and you kind of get whatever they've got available. A nice thing with gpused.co.uk is every product is individually checked for stability and all that kind of good stuff, then photographed, put on the site with a specific price for that specific item. So there's no kind of in-between of like, oh, what am I going to get? Am I going to get a decent MSI card, or am I going to get some trash tier card? That is no longer a thing, or at least not with this company anyway. Anyway, so we bought this graphics card, so went through the process, the whole ordering process, got onto the website, choosing my specific card, was absolutely fine, no problems at all there. I was happy with the price. It was about £15 to £20 cheaper than CEX, so I put all the information in. I must add as well, shipping is free. Whether or not it is going to remain free for the long term, I'm not entirely sure. That is, again, with a smaller company being somewhat more fluid, that potentially may change and there may be other options for kind of next day or expedited shipping. But with this at the moment, you get a tracked 48-hour service, which seems to be working very well. And I ordered on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, and it arrived on Monday morning. So that's pretty good. Obviously, weekends you don't really take into consideration. And when it comes to the actual card itself, it did arrive extremely well packaged. And in fact, older Mike will now show you how this all came to be. And here's a quick video of me doing the unboxing so you can see actually how it turned up. So we've got our package, which has arrived from GPU gpused.co.uk, which possibly, depending on how I edit this video, you may have had an intro already, and this is kind of like just the unboxing experience to see what actually turns up when you order something from this company. And the first thing I noticed is packaging actually seems to be pretty okay. It's all sealed up, so if it's going to be tampered with or anything in the post, then it's okay. And it's also got a return address in there, should that be necessary. So that's pretty handy. Obviously, I've scrubbed out my information off the top there. So let's take a look and see what we've actually got here. So I have actually ordered a GTX 1070, which I think was an Asus or Gigabyte. I can't remember actually. It was a little while back now, a couple of days before the weekend. So let's have a look and see what has arrived, and that appears to be a invoice, so I'm going to put that to one side just in case that has got personal information on. It may well have. And let's see how this has actually turned up. Now, using a comparison with places like CEX, which often their packaging leaves a lot to be desired, and especially if you're spending a considerable amount of money on an item, then you want it to arrive in one piece safely and securely, which also helps because you don't then have to do the whole kind of RMA process and all that kind of stuff, which can be problematic. So the first thing I'll notice, lots of bubble wrap on here, which is excellent. And also there's a label on the top saying what it is. So this is the EVGA 1070 SC. So that has refreshed my memory. And it does appear to be yeah, pretty well wrapped considering what it is. And also it appears that gpused have put a whole bunch of cards in here. So we can hand those out to our friend or friends if you have more than one. Good luck with that. And yeah, that's pretty good. So packaging wise, recyclable cardboard, excellent stuff. Not a whole bunch of tape on there really. So yeah, for recycling purposes, top job. So let's take a look at the actual graphics card and see what kind of condition it's in. Make sure there's no damage, all that kind of stuff. I would suggest as well, if you are purchasing used items off the internet, it's always a good idea to try and record what you're actually doing when you actually receive the item. Most of us just want to open it up and get started and start using our product. But if you ever have to do any returns, if you record the actual footage of you opening up the packaging, if there's any damage, it's obviously you've got proof straight away. So that's a top tip for you. I would say this is a slight overindulgence in bubble wrap, but certainly I'd rather have the item turn up and actually be in one piece than it be very poorly packaged and turn up damaged. So yep, bit of a waste of packaging there, but it's in one piece, so that's a good sign. So taking the graphics card out, as you can see, this is the EVGA GeForce GTX 1070 SC edition. Now we paid around about £100 for this, which in terms of the used market is actually a fair price, especially for something which is more of a retail product in terms of you're buying it from a company, so you have some kind of comeback. This does come with a 14-day warranty, which isn't the greatest. Obviously places like CEX do offer up to 2 years warranty. Isn't quite what it sounds like it is, but it is slightly more reassuring. So overall the card actually looks good. It looks like it's in pretty decent condition. I'll get some close-ups of this as well so you can see it a little bit better. It doesn't appear to have any obvious damage, and from what I can tell, the actual EVGA void if removed sticker is still intact, so it means it hasn't been taken apart, which potentially can be good and bad. Obviously it hasn't been molested, so that is a good sign, so there won't be any kind of user damage. But this is a slightly older card now. We are looking at somewhere around like 6 or 7 years old for this particular type of card, depending when it's purchased. So it's probably going to be at the point where the actual thermal paste and potentially the pads may need replacing and or cleaning. Something which actually goes to the GPU used. They do actually have a relatively thorough testing methodology, which I'll try and put on the screen now. This was explained to me via email. So they do go through and test these cards to make sure they are all stable and working before they get shipped out or before they're even accepted by the company. So that is good, and it would appear that this has passed those tests without needing to be actually repasted. So that goes some way of showing that this card possibly has either had very minimal use or has been extremely well looked after. So anyway, that is my first thoughts about the actual graphics card. See what it's all about, make sure it's actually turned up okay and not damaged and all that. So yeah, this is looking pretty good so far. Obviously we've got to do some testing on this to make sure it actually physically works and all that kind of stuff, and we'll be following that up in the rest of the video. So that was the unboxing process. The next thing to do was obviously to test the card, make sure it was all working. I've put it into the rig behind me, done some tests, and it performs exactly as it should do. And in terms of temperatures, etc., somewhere around about the 62, 63 degrees Celsius mark, which is absolutely fine. I did notice on the graphics card itself that the actual tamper label had not been changed. So in this particular instance, the graphics card has not been taken apart, not been molested, and the temperature is obviously down to the thermal paste being the stock stuff, was absolutely fine. Now this is something which I did mention in the questionnaire about how they do testing. There is a detailed testing methodology which we'll go through shortly when we go through the questions, but overall in terms of the ordering process, the communications, absolutely fantastic. There was one slight hiccup, which was the fact that obviously you look at the picture, that was what I ordered. I didn't actually read all of the information on there, and there was a very small section on there saying that unfortunately when the actual GPU was photographed with the box, unfortunately the box, during obviously moving around stock etc., the box has actually gone missing. That was actually in the description, but it was very nice to see in the communications from the email and also PayPal receipts etc. It did state on there, just a kind of heads up, by the way, the box is missing, the graphics card is fine, and it will be packaged accordingly, which obviously it was. So that was really good, that there was no kind of real surprises. It didn't turn up, and I wasn't expecting a box because I was now aware of that. So yeah, that is absolutely fine. And it's one of those things that happens. Obviously, if you're buying something from CX, generally things will never turn up in their original box unless it's something very rare. Normally it just turns up in some bubble wrap if you're lucky. Whereas this turned up in excellent condition and the packaging was absolutely brilliant. So in terms of being a satisfied customer, I can say, yeah, 100%, totally happy. I've got what I paid for. It works as intended, no hidden problems, and everything is great. So for me, it seems like a very good option. For you, potentially, you might want to take a look. Again, links will be in the video description, so you want to check them out. We're now going to go through some of the questions that I actually asked Max, and got some honest answers. It wasn't kind of any just generic responses. This is all from the heart. So I'm going to read those through now. If you obviously want to fast forward through this, please feel free to do so. But if you want more information, obviously do take note. So the first question is, what is gpused.co.uk, which some of you probably already realised, but for those of you who are not sure, here we go. So the answer to that was, we are an online mainly business trying to compete with the likes of CX, but trying to use specialization in PC components as a competitive advantage. A lot of businesses, like CX, fill their shops with a vast array of items that they are not able to fully familiarize themselves with. We're trying to keep it narrower than that to ensure all of our customers are satisfied every time. So that kind of sums it up. They're not going for the whole kind of DVDs and CDs market as well. They're concentrating on core PC components, GPUs being the bulk of what they sell, but there's other things as well, such as cases, hard drives, GPUs, CPUs, SSDs, all that kind of stuff. That is going to be on a constant rotation basis, so depending what it is you're after, you may or may not find something suitable, but obviously do check out the site for more information on that. So my next question was, what makes you unique in this market segment? So the answer to that was, we care about customers, which is hard for bigger companies to do. Being small makes us reactive, fast communication, problem solving, and help setting up when needed. Also, so much more. We also specialize, like mentioned above. We don't fill our site with CDs and DVDs like CEX, which distracts them from where the customers really are. I have also asked some of these questions which are on a more personal level, such as personal goals, company goals, etc. I'm not going to go through that in this. I will actually put a copy of this email into our Discord, so if you're interested in finding out more, you can do there, or obviously just drop me an email or something. I'll try and fill you in the information. Basically, he's kind of done a graduate degree or whatever and is basically studying business and is now putting all of that kind of knowledge and information and all that learning into practice with its own business. So yeah, it makes absolute sense. Trying to grow the company, all that kind of usual stuff. My next question was, why should we trust you? And this is obviously going to be a key thing. When you're buying anything, trust is one of those big things, especially when you're buying things like off eBay. It's kind of like you're taking your life in your own hands with eBay. Obviously, you do have some protection, such as the PayPal protections, that kind of stuff. But sometimes you find yourself kind of haggling or fighting over things which do potentially go wrong. So why should we trust gpused.co.uk? So the answer to that was, this was a much harder question to answer a few months ago, but we've managed to amass a rather positive set of reviews across several platforms, and at the time of writing, 263 on Trustpilot, 48 on eBay, 46 on Google, and even one on Amazon, where we're seeing if we can gain any traction. Customer service is one of our primary core competencies that I hold very close to me at all times. There's no business without customers. So that kind of makes sense, and although not specifically answering the question, does give you an idea of the kind of ethos or the values that Max holds. So what can you actually have to back up that level of trust? So I did go on then to ask about warranties. Now, warranties is something which is very much a work in progress for gpused.co.uk, with the standard warranty being a 14-day warranty. So obviously get it, try it, if it doesn't work, return it, etc, etc. So there was some conversation in regard to him actually adding on additional warranties, extending it to 6 months, etc. And there was previously actually on the website an option where you could purchase additional warranties. Now, at the time of me actually making the purchase, this was not available as it had been removed. But after conversations with Max after the fact, he's now gone back and actually added it to the website. So what you can do now is you can add an additional 1 year's warranty to your purchase for a 15% cost. So much like insurance policies that you get when you buy stuff from Amazon, extended warranties, it works in that deal. So essentially you can add on a little bit of extra costs, 15% of the purchase price to your item, and you can get a 1 year warranty. This is able to be toggled on or off on the website. So if you don't want the extra warranty, you just want your standard 14-day warranty, absolutely fine, make your purchase, no issues there. If you do want to have a little bit more of a warranty, then you can opt for that at a cost. So I think that's absolutely fine. It would be nice to have it built in. Obviously, places like CEX being a much bigger company and with a much larger financial reserve behind them, they can afford to offer a 2 year warranty, which kind of isn't a warranty as such, as we've discussed previously. But again, it is one of those things with this company being something which is evolving. Hopefully that will extend later on, and possibly it will be included as standard without the extra costs, but we'll see how things turn out. Something else as well, which Max actually mentioned, is because the company is growing, you're actually ring fencing some of the profits of the company, putting that to one side, just to obviously cover warranty issues, etc. So if there is any need for a refund, there is a little pool of cash ready to sort out those kinds of problems, which I think is a great idea. And obviously, as a small business starting out, it's really hard to kind of balance the books. So by ring fencing that money means hopefully customers should be protected, at least to some extent. There are obviously other things as well. So if you're paying via a credit card or PayPal, you are going to have coverage there. It isn't going to come from gpused.co.uk. So you will need to make a claim with either PayPal or your credit card company. So potentially there is some level of protection there regardless of what you bought. So another question we asked was, what is the testing procedure for hardware? Now, obviously with this, I'm not very good at scripted stuff, so I'm going to just read it out as it is. So do bear with me. So the answer to that was another area we pride ourselves on, of course. It varies between components, but graphics cards make up around 90 to 95% of our sales. So I'll explain this process more. Firstly, I look for any signs of damage in transit to the outer box, nice and easy. Then any damage to the GPU itself, whether that be scratches or bumps, etc. Thirdly, the card is put straight into one of my 4 test PCs, in case quite a few orders come in at once, where a 1 hour Furmark is run, checking temperatures don't exceed 75 degrees Celsius. If they do, thermal paste is reapplied. Checking FPS is in line with what model of graphics card, and checking GPU power draw is consistent and as close to 100% as possible, in brackets what you're looking for on Furmark, and that the graphics card has a normal fan curve. If all is good, after the hour, Furmark is closed and Unigine Heaven is opened, and then Unigine Superposition. I do 1 run of each benchmark and compare the results to make sure it's performing as it should, not just in a hypothetical Furmark, but in a more realistic game model benchmark. It is a very similar process for RAM and CPUs too, with visual testing, then stick it in the PC and run some tests. So I think with that is pretty much what most people would tend to do if you bought a new graphics card, or maybe if you go into someone's house to pick up a second-hand one, you'd ask them to run kind of 3D Mark or Furmark, that sort of thing. Obviously you're not going to spend an hour in someone's house doing that, so at least with all that, the testing's been done. In theory, when you get your graphics card, it should be all a-okay. So on to a slightly different subject now. So that was mainly covering purchasing a product. What about if you want to trade in a product? Now, GPUs, obviously to get their stock, they take in trade-ins from both public and also from other sectors. So if you do want to sell your graphics card or some component to GPUs, what do you actually do and how does it work? Now again, this is one of those things which is somewhat in flux, so it potentially can change. At the moment on the website, there is a form which you can fill out stating all your information on there, and you can speak directly to Max or one of his team, and you can go through the process. So I'm guessing it's going to be sending pictures of images or a description. The price is agreed beforehand. Obviously, if you send something which isn't as you said it is and they get it and it's not quite right, you're going to have that kind of conversation where this isn't what was expected. You can take it from there. So that is one of those things, very much like CEX. If you trade in something, you go through, you say what condition it's in, they get it. They generally tend to mark it down a little bit and give you less than you actually estimated. So at least with this, you are getting an initial quote. I should actually quote from the questionnaire here to get this exactly right. So the question was, if I trade in a product and we disagree on the value, what happens? So the answer to that was, a value is always agreed before the item gets to me, so there's never a disagreement. If I send over a quote and the customer doesn't like it, we go our separate ways, no strings attached. So that is absolutely fine. Again, with anything, if you're buying something which is kind of sold as seen almost, or you're selling something and they haven't seen it, there potentially is going to be things where people don't always describe things as they are, or perhaps you value your item higher than they actually perceive it. Something which can be worked out. Again, there is going to be some flexibility in that. Certainly, it does appear that you get a pretty decent market value for your products, but again, individual products will differ. So I think that's pretty much enough of me waffling on. We've gone over, we've got some idea of what this is all about. My essential advice to you is, if you are looking for a graphics card, an SSD, a case, whatever it might be, if you are shopping around and you are looking on eBay, you are looking on CX and other sites as well, local Facebook marketplace, that kind of thing, maybe do take a look at gpused.co.uk and see if there is anything that takes your fancy. Obviously, it isn't going to fit everything. They aren't a huge company. They don't have a massive plethora of stock. There are certain items available, and obviously as the market changes, that will change as well. And also, if you're looking at trading in an item, maybe before you go through the eBay route and Facebook marketplace and get all the tire kickers coming round, maybe give Max a shout and see if he can work you out a decent deal. As with all things, there will be plenty of questions, and again, this video probably won't age particularly well as the company evolves and things change. I will try and keep on top of it as well. I think it's going to be one of those companies that I personally am going to be keeping at the back of my mind when I'm looking to purchase or even sell on products. Certainly with the amount of things we get here for review, we can't keep hold of everything, so maybe it'd be quite a nice thing to actually see some of this stuff go on to another home and get a new lease of life. But really, I think it's going to come down to the individual. Check them out, see what you think, and if you have already bought from gpused.co.uk and you've had some experiences, either positive or negative, please let us know in the comments section below. But to answer the video title, is gpused.co.uk friend or foe? At the moment, I certainly would recommend them and say they are a friend of the GPU and PC community. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments section below. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.